Do you even know what the legal definition of sexting is? Did any of you consider that the Twitch user may have been over the legal age of consent at the time of the messages?
Well guys, we're somehow back. We are once again talking about the insanity that has been Dr. Disrespect's return to the internet, and I'm glad to report that somehow it has only gotten worse. Didn't really think that was possible. If you've been living under a rock for the last couple of months, or if you have a life outside of the internet like a normal person, you may have no idea what I'm talking about. Over the last few months, Dr. Disrespect, one of the world's most famous streamers, has been outed for being banned off of Twitch in 2020 for allegedly sexting a minor on the platform. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but that's kind of the gist of the situation. If you want the full rundown, I'll link a video in the top right corner, but for the purposes of this video, you'll probably do just fine knowing nothing more than Dr. Disrespect was allegedly getting kind of freaky with somebody that he probably shouldn't have been. Now, as you can imagine, once this came out, people were upset for like maybe 45 minutes. After that, it quickly became an internet civil war split up by the issue on whether or not you think it's a cool thing for a 40-year-old man to talk to a minor while he's married with 2 children. Seems like a pretty easy choice there, but clearly it's not for a lot of people, and that's how we've gotten to where we are today. Dr. Disrespect has returned to the internet in full force, and the other day he went live and he gave what he's claiming to be his side of the story, and it's pretty bad, guys. We're gonna be watching today a sort of compilation of the highlights from that stream that I got from Jake Lucky on Twitter, so there might be some missing information here. I'm not claiming that everything we're going to see today is everything that was mentioned about this situation on stream, but I'm sorry, it's a 6-hour-long live stream, and most people seem to agree that this video covers just about everything that was said that was notable. So it's good enough for me. So let's not waste any more time. Let's begin. Please subscribe.
Are you nervous to be back? After what's transpired over the last couple months, am I excited to be back to this type of world?
Okay, so this is something that the doctor is going to do a lot during this. He has this really like, oh, I'm so above this kind of attitude, I feel like, where he's treating this situation in a way that I don't really think he has the right to. For some context, if you're one of the people who doesn't really know about this situation, I think the quote type of world that this guy is referring to here is the type of world that didn't accept him with open arms after he admitted on Twitter in his own words that he was talking to a minor while he's married and has kids. If that's the type of world you're not excited to be back in, a world where a man is held accountable for his own actions and is not supported for doing stupid shit, I think that says a lot about you as a person.
For almost 4 years, champs, the public demanded to hear from the doc regarding the Twitch suspension. I guess since you all missed the point with my personal statement.
The personal statement where you admitted to having inappropriate conversations with a minor? That one? I don't really know what point there is to miss. He's gonna go on to claim that this was like a 4D chess move where he was just trying to trick journalists. Yeah, dude, you really owned the journalist by admitting to having conversations with a teenager. You got him.
Maybe it's time to tell my side of the story. Huh, champs? You see, there was a lawsuit pending, and as part of that arbitration, all parties were not allowed to speak publicly about the case. I respected those rules. My lawsuit against Twitch was eventually resolved, as you all know. But even then, as part of the settlement, all parties were still prohibited from speaking publicly about the case or the settlement. However, if one side violated that confidentiality, then the other side could respond. And again, champs, I respected all the confidential obligations.
Okay, so while this is probably true, this kind of stuff is pretty common in lawsuits. Sort of like a mutually assured destruction kind of deal. If you start talking, I'll start talking. So this is probably true, but honestly, I find it kind of funny that he's acting like he's the one who was taking the high road here. Like he was the good person in this. Look, champs, I chose not to break the confidentiality agreement that would require me telling the world that I was talking to a minor. I'm a fucking hero, champs. Like, okay, dude, nobody would fucking break this confidentiality agreement in your shoes. That does not make you a good person.
Did you not know the repercussions from spewing lies about the 2-time? Did you not know the repercussions of accusing me, Cody Connors? You didn't have any firsthand knowledge of my dispute with Twitch. You said that I got banned from Twitch because I was sexting a minor through Whisper's messages? Do you even know what the legal definition of sexting is?
Okie dokie, so I know it's kind of a meme, but when you have to say shit like this, not a good look, doctor. Look, it's pretty obvious that when this went in front of a judge, whatever the doctor did or whatever he said was deemed not bad enough to get him sent to jail. However, what he just said implies something that really doesn't make this situation look too good. Maybe I'm reading too deep into it, but when you whip out, do you even know the legal definition of what sexting is? It really makes me think that whatever you were saying to this individual required the definition of sexting to be scrutinized in your lawsuit. Again, I touched on this when we first talked about all this. Most conversations that you have with a person that are not leaning towards something would not require the legal definition of sexting to be brought up and compared to whatever you're doing. You know what I mean? Now look, don't get me wrong, this could be a case of his lawyers being like, look at the definition of sexting and then look at what they were saying. It's clear there was nothing going on here. Sure, that could be why he brings this up, but something that he's going to say in a moment makes me think that's not the case.
I do. And yeah, I used Twitch as whispers, but trust me, I wasn't sexting anyone. You also said the word minor, Cody. I even made sure that word was emphasized in my statement, edited, etc., just to make sure these so-called journalists would pick up on it. And boy, oh boy, did they ever, champs.
Okay, so this is what I was talking about earlier. This idea that Dr. Disrespect was just fucking with the media when he said he was talking to a minor and edited the word minor in and out of his statements. Really, dude? You expect me to believe that you told the entire world you were a predator as a joke? As a gotcha to the media? I mean, are you serious? If you believe this, I don't know what to tell you.
When you and all these so-called journalists, Cody, fired off your tweets, did any of you consider that the Twitch user may have been over the legal age of consent at the time of the messages?
All right, so not trying to pause this every 5 seconds, but this is what I was referring to when I said that there's something that makes me think this was not just his lawyers bringing up sexting to prove a point. If you weren't sexting a person, if you weren't doing anything inappropriate or sexual, why does the age of consent matter here, doctor? Why is that relevant? It's not illegal to have a normal conversation with somebody under the age of consent. Like, that's not a crime. Why does this matter? I mean, come on, dude. You're telling on yourself.
If these former trust and safety team members, and by the way, I know exactly who they are, actually had firsthand knowledge, then what they conveniently left out is, 1, Twitch's trust and safety team, the same employees that decided to ban me, internally admitted that the whisper messages were not sexting. And 2, Twitch's trust and safety team, the same employees that decided to ban me, internally acknowledged that the whispers did not constitute child sexual abuse material CSAM. Neither I nor the Twitch user exchanged any sexual graphic messages or images. Cody Connors and these other anonymous sources are trying to paint a picture that I was exchanging sexually explicit messages and photos with this Twitch user. That never happened. I even used the word inappropriate, purposely. And look at how it was defined by everyone, champs. Huh? Including these defaming articles. I'm sorry, but mutual bantering with inappropriate jokes taken out of context should have never led to me getting banned from Twitch in the first place.
Okay, so I know that was a long section there, but I wanted to let that play out. I don't know if he really believes that what he's saying here, all these clarifications and definitions, make him look better to the average person, but I don't think they do. Both the general agreed upon legal definition of sexting and things that fall under CSAM are image and video based. Sure, he acknowledges that no sexually explicit messages were sent, but he doesn't say anything about what was found by other people in that regard. From what I am hearing, what's actually coming out of his mouth, he is saying that the people who investigated this did not find anything that could be constituted as sexting or CSAM. Nothing about text messages though. Again, I'm not trying to imply that Dr. Disrespect did anything illegal here. The justice system exists for a reason. If he was tried and nothing that was illegal by the book was found, that's the end of it. But that does not mean people can't judge you morally and have their own beliefs. The way that he's trying to defend all this, it really seems like the situation was that there were inappropriate messages shared shared, but at the end of the day, nothing was illegal, so that was the end of it. You are not exempt from being judged just because the things you did were not illegal. They still sound pretty fucking immoral from where I'm standing. So the next segment here is pretty long-winded, so I'm gonna try and summarize it for you. If you think I'm leaving anything out, feel free to fact check me, go watch the video or the stream. So he begins by addressing why these two were talking in the first place, and he chalks it up to nothing more than him just engaging with the community, talking to other streamers, talking to people about video games, stuff like that. And he says that's it, that's the only reason. He was just engaging with the community around him. He then goes on to state that his ex-Twitch partner manager found out that Dr. Disrespect was exchanging these whispers with this individual. He says that the partner manager obviously had a grudge against him. He would never support him in any way. He would never try and get him on the front page. He wouldn't inform him of Twitch events going on. He didn't follow him on any social media, which, I mean, to be fair, if you are the partner manager of somebody as big as Dr. Disrespect, not doing anything like that is very suspicious. It is strange that you would not do that when Dr. Disrespect was one of the faces of the platform. That kind of behavior is strange. But he continues saying that after they asked for a new partner manager, a few months later that ex-Twitch partner manager reached out to the individual Dr. Disrespect was messaging and encouraged them to file a report about the messages. He states that the individual told the partner manager multiple times that they have no desire to file any sort of reports, and that the partner manager kept at it, and eventually a report was filed. And then he mentions something interesting, and as of right now, I do not know how to confirm this, but if this is true, this genuinely changes my opinion on this situation. He says that Twitch's special operations team receives this report and finds nothing wrong with what they reviewed, and they do not escalate it to Twitch's law enforcement response team. Now, like I said, I have no way to know whether or not this is true. I haven't been able to find anything involving the lawsuit, but if this is true, I really do think that this might change everything, but we'll get to that more in a minute. He says that once the partner manager learned that there was going to be no further action taken, he personally escalated this to a friend that he has on the law enforcement response team. The friend then pulled the entirety of the history of the whisper messages, quote, cherry-picked some of the excerpts, and then sent them to the director of the law enforcement response team. Now, while this was happening, the director of the team was supposedly on vacation, and Dr. Disrespect implies that during the lawsuit, they learned that he had no access to a work computer or any of his work files, and he says that within an hour of these messages being sent, the director and the friend of the ex-Twitch partner manager made the decision to suspend Dr. Disrespect. After this, he says that Twitch submitted a report to the NCMEC, which is the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and as far as he knows, nothing ever came from that report. They never escalated anything to law enforcement. Now, I feel like up until this point, what he's been saying is pretty important and it's pretty convincing. It's beginning to change my mind on the subject, but then, at the end, he goes back to repeating some of the stuff that really makes this situation look kinda weird. He says that the internal investigations found nothing that constitutes a sexting or anything that warrants a CSAM charge, which, while we've talked about how those things really only deal with images and videos, that's still something important to note. But he follows this up by saying that Twitch did no investigation whatsoever on the laws of the jurisdiction that this user sent and received messages in involving the age of consent. Again, why would that matter if nothing sexually inappropriate ever happened? Like, I feel like that just cannot be ignored. Why would you want Twitch to investigate the age of consent of the area that the person you've been talking to lives in as some sort of legal evidence that you did nothing wrong if nothing happened that should involve the age of consent? That is just such a strange thing to include that I feel like something is being left out here. Like, why on earth would the age of consent be relevant if you're not trying to justify something you did that involves somebody needing to be of the age of consent? Like, that makes no sense whatsoever. Like, with the way he's explaining these things, it does seem like maybe there is an aspect of the ex-Twitch partner manager being out to get him. Maybe there is an aspect of a grudge being held that's relevant here. I'm not saying that's impossible, but some of the things that he says just sort of make it seem muddy. Like, look, if all he's concerned about is clearing his name legally, whatever. Like, I think that it's probably pretty clear at this point that by the book, he did not do anything illegal. There seems to have been too many eyes on this for him to just skirt past everybody. But morally, the situation sounds questionable. Like, with all the harping on legal definitions, bringing up the age of consent multiple times, if it was really just nothing more than jokey conversations about video games, why not just tell us what was said? What was cherry-picked? What made you look so bad? I mean, I feel like most people in this situation, especially somebody as big as Dr. Disrespect, would want to go the extra mile. They would not only want to prove that they're not legally in the wrong, they would also want to prove that they're not morally in the wrong. So it just seems a little strange to me that there is so much focus on strictly sticking to the legal definition of everything, and that being the only thing that he's really really focusing on. Because, I mean, that doesn't really mean a whole lot morally. There have been dudes on To Catch a Predator who have said vile shit to who they think are children, and they get off scot-free because there just wasn't enough. I'm not saying that's what Dr. Disrespect did. I'm not trying to make any assumptions here, but I feel like most people, if they could, would want to go one step further than just saying, look, I was cleared by a court. It wasn't enough to send me to jail. If you have the means, if you can prove morally that you're fine, why wouldn't you? That makes no sense to me. Like, that is the ideal scenario for me, that everything that I've said and believed in has been wrong. A lot of people on the internet are fucking insane these days, and they don't actually care about victims. They just want to see people they don't like go under. I'm not a fan of Dr. Disrespect, but I would rather him be completely innocent than some person have been exploited. If you disagree with that, you're a fucking psycho. And I feel like if everything that he's saying is true, it would be pretty easy to blow this open and prove that he's completely innocent. Why he seemingly refuses to do that? Well, I mean, there's only so many explanations. Well, guys, what do you think? Do you think the information he's providing is enough? Do you think that it's enough that he was legally innocent? Do you think that should sort of trump any moral questions? Because I just can't agree with that. I feel like there is definitely a reason for all the focusing on these legal definitions and saying that they didn't do this, they didn't do that, instead of more of I didn't do this and I can show you that. That alongside all the weird rhetoric about how he was really just trying to confuse the media and it was all just a big plan. I mean, there's just some weird shit going on here. Not everything is lining up. Hopefully we get some more information soon, but I don't really think we will because he got like $30,000 worth of donations on his return. The stream got millions of views. There doesn't seem to be a need for it. What a positive sign for the future. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and walk on over to that subscribe button and touch it. It's free. It won't cost you anything. But for now, that's all I have for you today. Bye.